This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Shalom Aleichem, good morning, welcome to our viewers on Torah Anytime. Parshas Vayikra, Vayikra-Pesach, and Inyanei Deyoima. We'll dedicate the shir for the Tzlach Mitzion Bentosa, and the Refuah Shleima of Emma Mazal Mas Luba Leah, the wife of Shaulov, a dear friend, is still in the States, probably going to be there for about 2 months, but Baruch Hashem, we're hearing some good news. Mitzvah Hashem, Chaz Hashem, that she's going to come back. With superior health always in Mitzvah Hashem. Parshas Vayikra starts with a little less ink than what we would expect.
Small
Aleph, small font. They ran out of ink. What happened to the Aleph, small font? So the Seder HaDoros says, he testifies, I saw that the Megale Amukos wrote 1,000 Pirushim why it's a small Aleph. We're not going to go through the 1,000 because we'll be here till next Vayikra. And we also don't have it. We don't have it. But he testifies that he saw 1,000 Pirushim. I have a small sefer at home called Shishim Elef or Shishim Aleph because he has 60 of his own interpretations why it's a small Aleph. And there are many others. So we have more than 1,060 and we're going to show the 1,061 and there's more. But the Har Tzvi brings a Chiddush from his brother, Rav Zev, and he says the following. The Gemara in Soita Dafei Amud Beis says, Mishadat Oshvela, one who is humble, Ma'ale Rabakasu, it's counted as if he brought all the Korbanos. How does the Gemara know this? Shene'emar, Zivchei Eloikim, best sacrifices to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ruach Nishba, who has a broken spirit, one who is humble, one who is low, it is counted as if he brought all the Korbanos. Now, what are we doing in Chumash Vayikra? Torah Korbanos. We're starting learning all about the Korbanos. So before we start, the Torah tells you should know there's something even greater than Korbanos, and that is being humble. Because Baal HaTurim explains a small Aleph represents humility. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu made it small. Vayikra, HaKadosh Baruch Hu called me. Vayikra, Lashon of Mikre. Happens to me that HaKadosh Baruch Hu called me. So you see humility. When you plug that humility, just before the Korbanos tell you something greater than bringing all the Korbanos. And that is being humble. Perek Aleph, Pasuk Beis, I see you have a Chumash there. I'm reading a Pasuk, tell me if I did anything wrong here. Adam ki yakib korban la Hashem. If one brings a korban to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, any problem? Why Mikim? Did you not understand what I said? What do you have to be? What did you get by the word Mikim? Adam ki yakib, if a person brings korban la Hashem. Adam ki yakib korban la Hashem. Mi yakib Mikim, what did you get?
Can't be stolen.
Hashem. But if it was so simple, I wouldn't bring it. Adam ki yakib mikem. Comes another one of the Rishonim. Rabbeinu Chaim Paltir, Talmid Chover of the Maharam Yehudenberg. And he says there's another korban you can bring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's even greater than a korban of behemoths. And that is alluded to by the word mikem. Mikem is mem, 40. Kaf, 20. Mem, 40. Together, 40, 20, 40. 100 brachos a day. 100 brachos a day, that's the best korban that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. Adam ki yakir, you want to bring a korban? Mikem, bring that 100 brachos. And it's greater than a korban behema, and that is why the word mikem is before korban Hashem. Adam ki yakir, what do you want to call? Mikem, bring 100 brachos a day. You also can bring a korban Hashem, but you should know that mikem, the 100 brachos a day, also serves as a korban Hashem, and he says it's a greater korban than the actual Behemah Korban. So we found all kinds of ways in previous years and today of being able to bring Korbanos today. 2 of them we pointed today. One who is humble is counted as if he's brought all the Korbanos, and 100 brachos a day, to be makbid on that, is greater than the Korbanos of Korban Behemah. Daber Bnei Yisrael, ve'amarta aleim, we're still in Pasuk Beis. Adam ki yakir mikem korban Hashem min ha-behemah, min ha-bakom, min ha-tzon, takrivu es korbanchem. The Arvei Nachal brings from the Ariya Kodesh and the other great Mekubalim, that the whole unit of Korban is that the Nefesh that sinned reincarnates in a behemoth. And when you bring the Korban, it actually is the rectification for that person that's sinned. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu finds the right behemah for the sinner. The sinner sinned in sin A, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes sure that he's going to bring a Korban of a person who is in that korban through Gilgul who sinned in the same way. And when you bring it and you rectify that person, you are rectified. It comes out that it's all midah keneged midah. Because Baruch Hu wants us to be involved in rectifications of others, redeeming their soul. And when you do that, the Baruch Hu says, you know what? You're atoned for. We always thought you're being a korban, you're atoned for yourself. No, you're atoned for someone else. If you're atoned for someone else, the Baruch Hu says, you know what? You're going to be atoned for as well, because everything is midah keneged midah. It's not all about me. It's about others as well.
Who's that?
The Alvei Nacha brings this. In Parshas Vayikra, we learn about different korbanos. The root of the word korban comes from the word korov, kirva, finding new closeness and relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu after we distance ourselves because of a sin, because of a mistake, whether it's an individual, whether it's a tzibur. So there is a sin, there is a mistake by an individual. Adam nefesh kitechta, an individual. The Kohen is also not immune from making mistakes. Im ha-Kohen ha-Mashiach yachta. Even the Nasi, the Pasuk says, Asher Nasi yecheta ve'asa achas mikol mitzvos Hashem asher lo ta'asena. So we see everybody can sin, and not only that. V'im kol adas Yisrael yishku v'neilam. Who's adas Yisrael? In this Pasuk, adas Yisrael refers to the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin themselves made a mistake, and they caused all of Klal Yisrael to make a mistake. So the Matzah comes out that there are 5 major principles from these Pasha, from Pasha the Korbanos. First of all, no one is immune from making mistakes, from falling. Whether it's an individual, whether it's a Kohen, it's a Nasi, no one can say, it's not going to happen to me. Not going to happen to me. Second principle, even if it's a large group of people, they can make a mistake as well. Even if it's a Sanhedrin, such wise individuals. So nothing can promise a person that he's not going to stumble. It's the third principle. We take responsibility. It's true that we're all human. And as such, we see everybody can make a mistake. But that doesn't exempt us from taking responsibility. Instead of looking for excuses, instead of looking for explanations or to throw the blame on someone, it's because of him, it's because of her. Made a mistake, we take responsibility. The fourth principle, Ziknei Ha'eda, the leaders, because of their age, because of their authority, because of their status, they are supposed to lead the people to rectify their sins. And the fifth idea is the Korban, as its name suggests. The whole idea is to find Kirva, Kirvas Eloikim. And therefore, if we distance ourselves from our friends, from our family, from a Kodesh Baruch Hu, because of a mistake, because of a sin, there is a possibility to fix, to rectify, and that's what the Korban is all for. Today you don't have a Korban. You do. That is called Tefillah. The Pasuk in Hosea says, Uneshalma farim sfaseinu. I want to say something that maybe is not politically correct. So I hope it's not recorded. But we have an advantage today over the time we had Beis HaMikdash. Not allowed to say this, right? It's not something we aspire to. This is not optimal. We want Beis HaMikdash and we daven for it every single day. But as long as it's not with us, we do have one advantage. Mm-hmm. When Beis HaMikdash is up and running, a person who's sin has to bring a korban. If he is rich, brings a bull. You know how much a bull costs today? How much does it cost today?
Thousands of dollars.
$6,000, $7,000, $8,000. He doesn't have so much money. He brings a goat. How much is the goat? A little less. $1,500, give you a break. A sheep, a little less. If he's an ani, mincha. What's that to bring in a mincha? How expensive is flour and some water? No big deal. That's the time Beis HaMikdash is up and running. He doesn't have, that's all he can bring. But today, even the poorest person can bring a korban like the bull. In other words, if all korbanos are compared to tefillah, and tefillah is up to you, you can daven like a rich person. Because it's all about kavanah. So you can bring a korban of a par, a bull, every single time you daven. So in that respect, we are better off today when the time that we have Beis HaMikdash. And again, this is not something that we yearn for. We yearn for Beis HaMikdash. But as long as Beis HaMikdash is not here, it's all about our tefillah. And we have the possibility of bringing the best form of korban every single time we daven.
We don't have the guilt of it.
What's that?
The guilt of someone coming back as a korban, that we don't have, I assume.
You don't need? Uneshalma farim sfaseinu. the pasuk says that when you daven, it's as if you brought a korban. So you did all the tikkunim that are necessary that you normally bring by a korban. You do that by tefillah.
Even for the other person.
You have to worry about yourself. Chayecha koidmi. And if they tell you that a korban is tantamount to bringing a bull, and you can bring it if you have a great kavanah, remember, it works. Uneshal mafar misvasenu. The tefillah still come instead of a korban.
Well, they dominate the time of this nation.
They did. But without the formulation of tefillah that we have today, until they instituted it for them because they saw each person was davening on their own and were not able to say exactly what they wanted to say.
Typically, what they say, Shema, or what else would they say?
Shema is a requirement. But otherwise, the sequence of blessings that we have in the Shmoneh Esrei, that was not instituted until Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. Before that, each person got up in the morning and spoke to Ribbon Shalom. Again,
Can I go before the second temple?
no, it was during the time of the temple. But the beginning, before that, you didn't have a fixed formulation for Klal Yisrael.
The second one you had that.
Yeah. Perek Beis Pasuk Yud Gimel. I'm reading again a pasuk. I may change one word, but that's okay if you don't catch me. Perek Beis Pasuk Yud Gimel. Reading to you a pasuk. Try to catch me if you can. Al kol korban takiv melach. Bring salt every korban. Right? That's what it says. Korbancha. What do you gain by that chaf? Al kol korban. If you bring a korban, we're talking to you. Al kol korban takriv. You melach. But you're saying korbancha. We said before there was a problem with the ink. Now you're saying there's an extra ink so you can write another letter. Why do you need that chaf? What does it do? Comes the Shacham the Torah, Sifsei Kohen. That's from the disciples of the Arizal, the Mordechai Kohen, Tzfas, 450, 500 years ago, and he says, 3 times in Shas, Brachos Nun Hei Amud Aleph, Chagiga Chaf Zayin Amud Aleph, Menachos Tzadi Zayin Amud Aleph, we find. The Gemara says at the time, Beis HaMikdash is up and running. Bizman she Beis HaMikdash Kayam, the Mizbeach atones for a person. When you don't have Beis HaMikdash, Shulchano Shel Adam, one's table atones for him. So just like in the Mizbeach, on the Mizbeach, in Beis HaMikdash, you needed to bring salt. Al kol korbancha, your own korban, in other words, your own table, you have to bring salt. So this is Paskin in Shulchan Aruch HaChaim, Siman Kuf Samech Zayin, the Mechaber brings it. The source is Gemore Brachos Mem Amud Aleph, Lo Yivtza Ad Sheyaviu Lefanav Melach. Don't cut the bread, don't start eating. Don't cut the bread, don't start eating until you have salt. So this is the normal understanding why we bring salt, to allude to what happened in Beis HaMikdash. Our Shulchan today, our table today is like the Mizbeach. But maybe there's another remez. Why specifically salt has to be there on one's table. There's a Gemara in Ksubis Samech Vav Amud Beis Amaise. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was walking with his Talmidim in Yerushalayim. And he saw this young girl who was collecting barley from animals' manure, horses' manure. He goes to her and says, young girl, what are you doing? What's your name? She says, I'm the daughter of Nagdimon ben Gurion. Nagdimon ben Gurion? Lehavdil elef avdi Abdullah, you're the daughter of Elon Musk? He was the rich guy of Yerushalayim. What are you doing here in the street? Walking and trying to find something to eat between the... What went wrong? She says to him, don't you know? There's a saying in Yerushalayim. Melach, mamoin, chaser. Just like the melach, the salt, preserves the meat. Chesed, tzedakah, when you give from your money, will preserve your money. My father gave tzedakah, but he didn't give. According to what he had, he can afford much more. My father's name is Nagdimon ben Gurion, one of the richest people. And therefore, we lost all our money. You see from this maaseh that salt represents tzedakah. Melach, mamoin chasa. You want to keep your mammon, you want to keep your money? Give melach, give tzedakah. Just like melach will preserve the meat, so too will tzedakah. If that's the case, that's why you have to put salt on one's table. Rashi says, and that Gemara recorded, Shulchano shel Adam, one's table atones for him. That's the hachnasas orchin that he does on his table. That's why you put melach, you put dafka salt on the table to tell you, make sure you do tzedakah, you do chesed, bring the ani. If that's the case, now Rabbeinu Bechaya in Parshas Tetzaveh illuminates even, shines even more. Rabbeinu Bechaya says, "Uminhag chasidim shepetzofas." There was a minhag between the pious people in France that they made out of their table, the dining room table, their coffin. Why? Because it's the only thing you take when you leave this world. You don't take your money, you take the tzedakah, you take the chesed, you take the achnasas ochim that you did on that table, and to allude to that, they used to do it. Mele, that's what the table is all about. It's tzedakah and chesed. That's what the salt is all about. So you put that salt on the table. With that, we can gain another reason why the wife of Lot turned into a pillar of salt. So Rashi brings b'melach chat'au v'melach laktab. She didn't give salt to the guests, and therefore she became a pillar of salt. But it's a little more than that. It's a general thing because salt represents tzedakah and chesed, and because she didn't want to do tzedakah, not just with salt, she didn't want to bring any guests into her house. Mele, she becomes the symbol of that which she didn't do, the tzedakah, which is represented by salt, and it's a symbol for all generations to come. Make sure you understand the significance of giving tzedakah, chesed, and achnasas ochim. Our first riddle of the day. Who is it who's disqualified to serve as a Kohen, but he can serve as a Levi? Not the same person, because you can either be a Kohen or a Levi. Some kind of a disqualification that disqualifies you from serving as a Levi. But if you have the same disqualification, you can work as a Kohen. And the reverse as well. Who is disqualified to become a Kohen, but with the same disqualification, he can't serve as a Levi? Can it be? What about Moshe Rabbeinu? A certain disqualification. And by the way, Moshe Rabbeinu worked both as a Levi and a Kohen.
But he was disqualified as a Kohen.
Why is disqualified? When Aaron steps in after.
Because Aaron became the Kohen.
But and thereafter, now we have Kohanim and Beis Hamidrash and Levim, and they come to you and they say, I have this disqualification. Can I serve you or not? And you're going to tell the Levi, you can't. Oh, but I see you have the same thing, Mr. Kohen, so you can. Or the reverse. Kohen, you can't. Levi, you can. How can it be? That's not a disqualification for serving. That's not his position. A Kohen doesn't have to sing. A Levi has to sing. So if he doesn't know how to sing, he's not going to sing. He's going to do some other things. He has other things to do in Beis Hamidrash. Can it be? Yes, it can be. First answer. Person who has a blemish, mum. Person who's an arel, he's not circumcised. Prua rosh, he didn't go to the barber in a long time. Who drank a little too much. He is kua bgadim, his clothes are torn. That's no good for a Kohen. A Levi can. With all these disqualifications, and there's more like it, a Levi can serve. On the reverse, a Levi who can't serve and a Kohen who can. A Levi who is 50 is disqualified from carrying avodas matzah, but a Kohen can continue to work even after the age of 50. What happens when Beis Hamidrash is going to be built? In Hashem today, Mashiach comes, Beis Hamidrash is built. And a Levi who's 51 comes to us. A Kohen who's 72 comes to us. Can they continue to serve? When does it stop? Does it stop? So we just quoted the Rambam. And the Rambam says, avodas matzah, to carry, but that only applies in the time of the midbar. When they used to travel from place to place, the Levi is disqualified from carrying. Says the Rambam, if he doesn't have a good voice, or he doesn't have a voice, he cannot sing, but he can still be the guard. The Levim are the shoyarim and the shoyerim. They're the guards, and they're also the singers. If he can't sing, he can continue being the gatekeeper, and that has nothing to do with time. And what about the Kohen? What's that?
Who decides if he can sing?
You. There's a committee. We'll appoint you the chairman of the committee, and you decide if he has a good voice or not. What's that? Yeah, the Rambam says this disqualification of 50 is only at the time of the midbar and only for carrying. Doesn't apply later. What about the Kohen? Kohen starts serving, technically speaking, from the age of 13, but it seems that the minhag was from the age of 20, and there's no limit to when he can continue to serve. As long as he's up and running, doctor gives him permission, and his wife lets, he can continue. We're going to stop for the siren. So, Baruch Hashem, we're back after a short break, fulfilling a mitzvah deoraisa called V'nishmartem me'od v'nafsho yisechem. We had to run to protect ourselves. Mitzvah Hashem, nothing happened during these 5 minutes when we had the siren. But we're waiting for the real siren, Mitzvah Hashem. The shofar of Mashiach, the Karov, Mitzvah Hashem.
ויקטיר הכהן es hakol המזבח, פרק א' פסוק טס. The Kohen has to bring everything on the mizbeach. The Torah's Kohenim mentions this pasuk. Es hakol comes to lerabois. It comes to include hakarnaim ve'atlafaim, the hooves and the horns. If that's the case, asks the Or HaChaim HaKodesh, if you're supposed to bring the karnaim, the horns on the mizbeach as well, Avraham Avinu was mekayim the whole Torah before it was given, right? You want to pay Kafches Amud Beis, Kiddushin Pei Beis Amud Aleph. So how come in Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer it says that he did not put the horns on the mizbeach and he's saving them for the same shofar we just discussed? The shofar of Mashiach Tzidkenu will be from that ram that Avraham Avinu brought on the mizbeach in time of the Akedah. But Avraham Avinu knows the halacha. You have to put everything on the mizbeach. So how come he didn't? Avraham Avinu is mekayim the whole Torah. So Or HaChaim HaKodesh offers 3 terutzim. That's his verse, and the Mishnah in Maseches Zvachim, Pei Vav Amud Aleph says that if you put everything on the mizbeach and it fell off, kevan shepaku, so then you don't have to bring it back on the mizbeach. That's his first teretz. Or he can say, when is this obligation to put the horns on the mizbeach? When the time of Zrikas Adam, sprinkling mizbeach, comes and it's still connected to the behema, you have to bring everything on the mizbeach. But if it was disconnected, detached, cut it off before, there is no chiyuv to bring the karnaim, the horns, on the mizbeach. Or he says, the avos fulfilled the entire Torah, except a few times that they didn't. If there was an instruction from up above, if they saw fit, since there is no command to fulfill the Torah, so they did it when possible. For example, Yehuda marrying Tamar, Yaakov Avinu marrying 2 sisters. That's an Isur Torah. But when they saw with Ruach HaKodesh that that's the right thing to do, they didn't fulfill according to the mitzvahs. And Avraham Avinu saw here, we need this horn later on for the shofar of Mashiach Tzidkenu, and therefore he did it. But Reb Shlomo Kluger, that's the 3 terutzim of Or HaChaim HaKodesh. Comes Reb Shlomo Kluger with a new terutz. And he says, the Torah was mechayev you to put even the karnaim when you look at a behema and you point to it and say, you're going to be a korban, and it has horns, you have to bring the entire behema. But what if you did tumura? You had to switch the behema, you wanted to switch the behema, which one is not allowed to do. You're not allowed to do tumura, but it does work. And when you do tumura, both animals become holy. When you do tumura to an animal that initially did not have horns, but now your new behema does, you don't have to. You wanted to consecrate a behema without any horns? Does Yitzchak Avinu have horns? Yitzchak doesn't have horns. So therefore, since the Torah says you should bring it tachas instead of Yitzchak, take that ram and bring it instead. So even though normally you're not allowed to do Tumura, you're not allowed to. But when HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells you it's fine, you can do it. So since the Torah says here you should bring the ram instead of Yitzchak, and Yitzchak initially didn't have horns, so even the Tumura does not have to be brought with its horns. Gewaldig.
Is that so includes finish that new behavior with the horns? It doesn't have to be brought?
It's his chiddush, it's a big chiddush, and normally you can't even go there because you're not allowed to do Tumura. And when you do Tumura, the original korban is still here. You have to bring it with its horns or without. But since you're not going to bring the original korban, his name is Yitzchak, Memele, all you're left is with the behema, which has horns, but it's not like Yitzchak, like your original korban. The original one didn't have horns, and you don't have to bring the Tumura one with its horns.
Isn't there a midrash that says that other components of the korban were also saved for purposes?
For different purposes in the future, yeah. It could be, and the Ramban discusses it regarding the one. Ramban has the same question back in Parshas Vayera, and he says that it could be there's some kind of a nes. The Maise, Avraham Avinu did everything right, and he put everything in the Mizbeach. It was consumed in fire. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu has all kinds of ways, and you can take that dirt and ashes and make that into future things that you're going to need. But you don't need that if you have the 3 terutzim of Or HaChaim HaKodesh and Reb Shlomo Kluger. Daber bnei Yisrael elmo, nefesh ki techta bishgaga, mikol mitzvos Hashem, asher lo ta'asena. A person sins, punishment. However, the Gemara in Masechet Shabbos, Pei Tes Amud Beis, says, in Beis Din Shel Mala, they don't punish. Up to the age of 20. A person who sinned here goes to Beis Din when he's 13 and a minute, he can be punished. But Beis Din Shel Mala don't punish up to the age of 20. But why is that? So maybe based on what we said, don't remember when, a couple of weeks ago, I think we discussed a kidney donation. We brought a Baba Basa, Daf Kuf Nun Vav Amud Aleph, Paskin Halacha, and Choshen Mishpat, Reish Lamed Hei Seif Tes, that one is not allowed to sell real estate that he inherited up to the age of 20. The Rambam explains, up to the age of 20, a person doesn't have a das shlema. He goes after his earthly desires, and he may sell a very expensive piece of land for a new car, for a new MP3, I don't know what goes on today. Since he doesn't have a das shlema, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, the pastor says, Hashem yireh lalevav. We down here in Beis Din, ha'adam yireh la'inayim. We can only say, you're the age of 13. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, we have to put you in trial and we have to give punishment. But since HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees the levav and he knows that his das is not shelema, mimele, he waits until the age of 20, and only from the age of 20, one is punished in Beis Din Shemara. Now we're moving to Pesach, and a few shilas in Yana de Yoima have to do with what we just experienced 5 minutes ago with the siren. I think I shared with you last week or 2 weeks ago an interesting shaila too from Choshev Rav in Bleibak that sent me a shaila. A few more he sent regarding baking matzahs. Very lemaise. What if he's getting ready? Mitzvah Hashem, these shailas are not going to be relevant. It's going to be la'alacha, not lemaise. But in the place where they're baking matzahs, they prepare the table. Everything is cleaned perfect. And as they finish cleaning it, siren goes off. They all run to a safe place, to the mamad shelter, and when they come back, he's asking, do you have to clean the table? Or do you have to worry, maybe somebody passed here with some crumbs, and the table is not clean? You have to clean it again? So I wrote to him, I don't think you should be choishish, because when you ran to the mamad, everybody else who's sane ran to the mamad as well. Mimele, I don't think you need to clean it again, but lechavcha de milsa, just do a clean sweep fast of the table, if you're good to go. So then he asks, what if the matzah is already in the oven, and suddenly a siren, and they're telling us that there's no time to take the matzahs out? Should you be worried about bal tashchis? The matzahs will be burned. Or should you hesitate, pause a few seconds, take the matzahs out, delay going to the mamad, and then run to the mamad? Or don't have to worry about bal tashchis. Bal tashchis, a lot of matzahs. Matzahs cost a lot of money. Did you buy any matzahs lately? Matzahs are very expensive. You have to worry about bal tashchis. Too bad. People mistakenly use the word bal tashchis for everything is going to get ruined. But if there's a reason that you're doing the bal tashchis, there is no bal tashchis. Bal tashchis is taking something and destroying it when you can actually use it. It's fine. For no good reason. Why? Because I feel like it. That's bal tashchis. But whenever you have a reason for bal tashchis, there is no bal tashchis. Here, it's even less than that because you're not actively destroying anything. You're passively, by not going into the oven and taking it out, and you're running to do a pikuach nefesh, it doesn't even start. So I wrote to him, you better leave the matzahs there in the oven in order for us not to have a terrible situation. That you have kosher matzahs, but unfortunately, chalila, no one to eat them. So mimele, take out, go, leave the matzahs in the oven and run to the mamad, pikuach nefesh, overrides everything.
So
Another.
If it comes during the kneading, they just throw the dough out? So wait 2 minutes?
If it comes to what?
During the kneading?
Kneading, of course, get rid of it, yeah, sure.
Throw all the dough out?
Sure, no problem. If one decides not to go to the mamad, to the safe place, when there is a siren, should we, because he's not afraid, should we worry that lemaise, when the siren goes off, everybody's on mamad and he's by himself, maybe he was afraid. And if he was afraid, he had esech hadas, and he wasn't focusing on what he was doing with the matzahs, and mimele, the matzahs are not kosher. Should you worry, like, even though he says, I'm not afraid, lemaise, the siren, you heard the booms before, you hear the boom, you're startled. So mele, he doesn't know what he's doing, he lost his concentration, and the matzahs became disqualified. Should we worry about that?
Depends on the person, though.
We don't know, we weren't there. Should we assume that even though a person says, I'm not afraid, lemaise, when he hears the booms, you are afraid.
If Whisker Rav says that, we'd accept it, but he wasn't afraid.
But this man's name is not the Biskirov. It's just Moshe, whatever his last name is. Should you worry about it? So I wrote him back, if he is not afraid to go to the shelter, mistama, he is also not afraid of sirens. So therefore, there's no chashash that when he's working with the matzahs, he had hesech hadas. But if he is such a fool, such a shoite, that he's not worried about v'nishmartem me'od nafshosechem, I think he's patur from kol ha-mitzvahs, and mele there's chashash on everything that he do, and he can't rely on anything that this guy does. Shoite patur mikol ha-mitzvahs.
One question on the previous one. When it is in the oven over 18 minutes, it doesn't go to a state of chametz before being completely burned. The matzah that remains in the oven during the siren.
In the oven, it cannot become chametz. It's just going to burn. It's going to be ready in a few seconds. 20, 25 seconds, it's already ready. And there, it becomes ashes.
So when we say if someone took a matzah after 19 minutes,
that's while you're preparing it. While preparing it, and you leave it without needing it, and it can rise. Another question. If the person decided not to go to the safe place while the sun goes up, and he continues working, can you eat the matzah? Is it a mitzvah be'aveira because lemaise he transgressed what the Torah commanded him? V'nishmartem me'od nafshosechem. Watch yourselves exceedingly, and this guy didn't listen, so he did an aveira. So you're doing a mitzvah that comes in a way of aveira. So can you eat the matzah? You like it? Yeah. No, I also don't like it. Why? The matzah is not a chefza of an isu. This guy is mishige, and he transgressed what the Torah commanded twice. And he transgressed what Gedoli Yisrael directed us to go to the safe place and be mefakeach nefesh. But lemaise, the matzah itself is kosher. Now he asks, can you build a matzah bakery in the mamad, in the shelter, in the bomb shelter, in the same place? Can you build a matzah, whatever you need to build there, a matzah bakery, an oven inside the mamad? I don't know. I wrote him that technically speaking, I don't think it's possible. In a mamad, I don't think it's possible. But if I'm sorry. He wants to know if it's possible to build it and use meiser money. That's his question. Can you build it or not? I don't know if it's possible. But he's saying if you can build it, can you use meiser money for that? So I wrote it's very, very partial. If it's for commercial reasons that you're building this matzah bakery and the oven inside, of course not. You're going to make money from it. Just you can't do it outside the shelter, so you're doing inside. But if you're doing it for chesed, so Klal Yisrael will have matzahs even during these times, maybe you will be able to use meiser money.
He's building it for himself, or he's building it for...
That's the question. If you're building it for others, for chesed, not because you're going to sell them, so you can use meiser money, doing chesed. But if you're building it because you want to sell them, what's the difference where it is? And therefore you won't be able to use meiser money. His final question. There's an owner of a matzah bakery who makes a condition to those people who want to work there. If there is a siren, you don't stop. You continue working. So he's asking, is one allowed to work in a place like this? Because lemaise, you're going to be oiver. You're going to transgress. So he's forcing you to do a lav. He's forcing you to not listen to the Torah. Mimele, can you work in a matzah bakery like this? So I wrote him that if one works there, and suddenly the siren goes off, he doesn't have to listen to the Tanai. Because it's masne al mashikosu b'Torah. The Torah says something. The Torah says, run to the mamad. And you're saying, no, I have something greater than you. Chas v'shalom. It's called masne al mashikosu b'Torah. You're making a condition, and what the Torah says, it doesn't catch. Mimele, this t'nai is batel umevutal, nullified, and one must run to the safe place. But, if you know ahead of time that this is what the Baal Habayis demands, you shouldn't work there. For a simple reason of Chayecha koidmin lematzos chaverecha. Your life comes before the matzahs of your friend. So maybe your friend maybe he's not going to have matzahs, but you will have your life, and therefore you shouldn't work in a place like this. Now,
people in the concentration camps, there's stories about people that were able to make matzah in the concentration camp.
This is an interesting shayla. There's a person who has to go on dialysis. 10 hours he has to be connected to the machine. This is very relevant for a soldier. You have shifts, you can select what shift you want. Very relevant for a doctor who is going to operate, who's going to be working 10-hour shift. Leila Seder comes. You can pick the 10 p.m. shift or connect the patient at 10 p.m. and the patient is asking, what should I do? If I go from 10 p.m. until 8 a.m., I'll be able to say the whole Haggadah Shel Pesach, but I'll have to make the Psuki de Zimra tomorrow morning a little shorter. If I go at 9 p.m., instead of 10 p.m., I'll start an hour earlier, I'll have to make the Haggadah a little shorter. But I'll be able to say Psukei de Zimra in the morning. I'll finish at 7 p.m., I'll have more time to say all the Psukei de Zimra. Hai minayu adif. When you have to put them on the scale, which has more weight and which one should we prioritize? Applicable to many people. Haggadah is D'oraisa. What's the Shaila? What about Tadir v'she'enu Tadir kodem? How often do you do the Haggadah? In Eretz Yisrael only once a year. Chutz La'aretz twice. Psukei de Zimra. 354, and you have a leap year 384 times a year. What about Tadir v'she'enu Tadir? So you're saying Tadir. But D'oraisa. And no comparison. Is that what you're saying? What about the fact that the first mitzvah that you meet is the Haggadah? And then when Psukei de Zimra comes, I'm be'oines. What can I do? Oines, Rachmana Patei. And therefore we all agree that he has to do the Haggadah, which means he should connect himself later. However, Reb Chaim Kanievsky says no. Reb Chaim says, shorten the Haggadah and say Psukei de Zimra long. The whole Psukei de Zimra. Chidish. Why? Contrary to popular belief, even though we view the Haggadah Shel Pesach as a mitzvah deoraisa, it is. But the whole formulation of the Haggadah is only a minhag. One who didn't say these three things, Rabban Gamliel, Lo yatsa yadei choivaso, which means when you say these three things, what about the rest? The rest is just a minhag. Mamish pile ploim. Psukei de Zimra, where does it come from? Takana from the time of Chazal. How do we know this? Rabbeinu Yoina, in Brachos, Perek Hey, Daf Chav Gimel from the Dapim of the Rif, he writes, Sha'geoinim tiknu loimar mi tehila le David, what we call Ashrei, ad kol ha-neshama. The Rif brings what Rabbi Yossi says in Shabbos Kuf Yud Ches Amud Beis. Rabbi Yossi says, Yeheh chelki im gomrei halel b'chol yom. I'd like my share to be with those who say halel b'chol yom. What is he talking about? Says the Rif, ki ka'amrinan b'psukei de Zimra. Rabbi Yossi would say, Psukei de Zimra every single day. Mine you, what are we talking about? Mi tehila le David, ad kol ha-neshama tehalel ka. V'tkinu Rabbanan and Rabbanan, Chazal, instituted to say a bracha before and a bracha after, the Baruch She'amar before, the Yishtabach after. So Reb Chaim understands that the whole Psukei de Zimra comes from Takanas Chazal. The Haggadah, those parts of it that you have to shorten because of the reasons we mentioned before, are just out of a minhag. That's what the Rambam implies. Hilchos Tefillah Perek Zayin, Halacha Yud Beis. The Rambam says that the Zmiros, the Psukei de Zimra, go from Tehillah le David until the end of the Sefer. וכבר נהגו לקרוא פסוקים לפניהם ואחריהם. And they instituted a bracha before the Zmiros called Baruch She'amar and Yishtabach, just like the Rif wrote. And the Rambam writes at the end of Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah, Nusach HaHaggadah shenahagu ba'Yisrael bizman hagalus kachu. The formulation of the Haggadah that the minhag of Klal Yisrael at the time of Galus to say is, which means it's just a minhag. What are you going to do with Shulchan Aruch? Taf Pei Aleph Seif Beis that says one has to deal with Hilchos HaPesach and to say the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim and the miracles ad shetachtefenu sheina, until you fall asleep. Says the Chaim, the definition of shetachtefenu sheina is not that you have to fall asleep on your table. When you're tired, that means sleep has come and wants to take over you. At that point, you can go to bed, you can sleep. Mimele, it's not literally that you mamish have to fall asleep while relating the story of the Yetzias Mitzrayim and the Nisim and Niflos and Hilchos HaPesach. But it's really just a minhag. Mishnah Bura writes, Gam Nashim, women, chayavos, in saying the Haggadah. And he continues, V'lachen achiyuv gam ala mesharetet, the one who's serving you, is helping you at home. She should sit by the table and should listen to the Haggadah. But the language of the Mishnah Bura, chiyuv, is going on the minhag. In other words, since we have a minhag to say the Haggadah, so the Mishnah Bura says even the women are included in this chiyuv of, or stemming from the minhag. And it's very meduyak from the language of the Mishnah Bura when he continues and he says, but if a woman needs to go out and cook, it's yontif, and she wants to go to the kitchen, she needs to cook. Al kol panim, at least make sure that she hears Kiddush. And when the Baal Haggadah, the one who says it, gets to Rabban Gamliel, Oimer, anyone who didn't say these three things, let her come back. Until after the second cup of wine. Because one who didn't say these three things is not Yotzeh. V'noyagim, Mishnah Bura. V'noyagim, and the minhag is, that we also call them in from the kitchen to hear the 10 plagues that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was striking the Egyptians with. Chiddush. It's clear from the language of the Mishnah Berurah that it's only a minhag. Shulchan Aruch Harav also says, Simin Taf Ayin Gimel, Seif Mem Gimel, Ikara Haggadah, the main part of the Haggadah that Chacham instituted us for us is Choiva, and that is from Avadim Hayinu up to Areze Mishubach. And then it continues, Ush'ar Kol Nosach Haggadah, and the rest of the Haggadah that we say, Hu Minhag Shenahagu Kol Yisrael Midoros Harishonim, it's only a minhag. Mimele, a minhag, and Takanas Chazal is greater. Your Yetzer, when you say the minimal part of the Haggadah that you can say, and Psuke de Zima, you will say Behidur the entire thing, and it comes out a strange thing. We brought this question about a patient, a doctor, or a soldier. I have seen, you may wonder, I have seen people who are not doctors, people who are not soldiers at work, people who are not patients, healthy, fit, 100%. And for some reason they come late to shul in the middle of Sukkot Zima and they have to skip and jump every single day. I'm sure you didn't see it, not in your shuls, but I have seen such strange things. You see from here the importance of Sukkot Zima, that it even overrides what we always view. Haggadah, every single word. Sukkot Zima also every single word. You want to say something?
It seems in the Shulchan Aruch there's more than this. There's more that's a chiyuv in the Haggadah than just right.
The chiyuv is from Avadim Hayinu until the part that's it, finished. Everything around, before and after, is Klal Yisrael as a minhag. We're very makpid and minhagim, but it only comes from a minhag.
And the 4 kostos.
For there's a new mitzvah you have. You have matzah to eat. Saying, we're talking about the Amira, saying the Haggadah, saying Psuke de Zima. Big Chiddush. Other than Leila Seder, that we're all makpid, to eat a kazait, afikoman, and not to eat anything after. Is there any other time that one has to eat a kazait, afikoman at the end of his meal? And we're not talking about the second day yontif. First day yontif in Eretz Yisrael, or both nights in Chutz La'aretz. Is there any other time throughout the year that you have to eat a kazait, afikoman at the end of the meal?
If it rains on the first night of Sukkot, so you can't go into your Sukkot till...
If it rains on the first night of Sukkah, but let's say it didn't rain, do you have to eat afikoman at the end of the meal? No. So if it rained, now you suddenly have a new obligation to eat afikoman?
You weren't able to start with...
I'm talking about afikoman at the end of the meal, a kazait of an afikoman. Not a kazait of bread. A kazait matzah at the end of the meal, like Leila Seder. But in a different time throughout the year. Not in Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni there's a minhag, mostly a Hasidic type of a minhag, to eat some matzah, not a kazait, and at the end of the meal, whenever you feel like it. Many object to this minhag. I'm saying a minhag in a different time of the year, not on Leila Seder. You may say no, there's no such thing. But then you'll have a problem with some Rishonim. Reb Aaron HaKoyen brought an Ochos Chaim. It's Rishonim. He brings Rabbeinu Asher, Shamati, I have heard, Shenahagu HaKadmoinim, the early ones. He's a Rishon, he's talking about people before him. Lechol kazait matzah ba'achroina bayom kemo balayla. First day yontif. Not only Leila Seder, but during your Seudah, during the day, there's a minhag to eat a kazait at the end of the meal. Big Chiddush. 2 Chiddushim here. First of all, during the day, you have to eat a kazait matzah like you did last night. And the Minchas Eliyahu says that this kazait matzah, during the day, we also say about it, en maftirin achar Pesach, achar afikomen, which means you don't eat anything about it. Afterwards, it's a tremendous Chiddush. The Korbo, also Rishon, brings this minhag. The Darkei Moshe, the Rema, in Wartime, Taf Ayin Zayin, Seif Aleph, brings this minhag, and he says, and I never saw such a minhag, and it doesn't make sense. He says, en tam. Because why does the afikoman, why do you eat afikoman on Leila Seder? Zecher to the Pesach, and Pesach is not eaten during the day. So he rejects this minhag, but it's brought by the Rishonim, and that's the answer to our question. Are brachos me'akev a mitzvah? If you didn't say a bracha and you lit the Hanukkah candles, are you yotze the mitzvah? Yeah. If you read the Megillah, but without a bracha, you did the mitzvah? No? Yes. Of course you did. Any other bracha, any other mitzvah d'oraisa that you want? I just brought 2 examples de Rabbanon. Any mitzvah. The bracha is me'akev? No. What about eating matzah? You said you ate the matzah without saying Hamoitzi lechem min haaretz. Not me'akev. You're not yotze? Why? You said al achilas matzah. You said you ate, but you forgot to say Hamoitzi. You're still not yotze?
No, you are yotze.
You are yotze. You are yotze. Comes Reb Shlomo Kluger, and he says you're not yotze. You said the bracha for the mitzvah al achilas matzah. You ate kazait, behidu, a gigantic kazait. Oh, you forgot to say Hamoitzi? You have a problem. You're not yotze, go eat again. Why? Gemara in Brachos Lamedei Amud Beis says, one who eats without saying a bracha, ke'ilu goize la'kodesh baruch hu u'leknes Yisrael, he's a thief. Oh, he's a thief, so the matzah was never yours? So it's like eating matzah gzula. We learn in Shulchan Aruch, you're not allowed to eat a matzah gzula, you're not yoytze with that mitzvah. If you didn't take permission by saying the bracha, it's taking permission, that's hamoitze, birkas haneheni, not the bracha for the mitzvah. The bracha for birkas haneheni, that's taking permission, now it's yours, you acquire the matzah, you can eat it. But as long as you didn't say hamoitze, you have a technical problem. It's not a bracha, it's niyut, it's a curse. Pile ploy. Not everybody agrees with this Chiddush. The Chassam Sofer's grandson, the Yad Sofer, Shalos Chuvas Yad Sofer in Chelik Aleph Siman Nun Aleph says, wait a second, I'm stretching it a little too much. When Chazal say it's like stealing, ke'ilu goizer, it's exactly that, ke'ilu, but that's where it stops. Lemaise, it's a matzah that you bought, it's yours, and in a you'll be yoitze. Ken nire la'anius daiti, but it goes against Rav Shlomo Kluger. Rav Shlomo Kluger is a gigantic mechadesh, and there's a Sefer HaManik. Sefer HaManik is one of the Rishonim. And he writes, Lokeach ha'matzah ha'shleima, you take the matzah, not the broken one, u'mevarech alea birkas hanehenin, you say, hamoitzi lechem min haaretz, that always comes first before the bracha of the mitzvah, because asur lehenos min ha'olam hazeh belo bracha. You're not allowed to take any benefit from this world without a bracha. So according to the Elef Lecha Shlomo, Rav Shlomo Kluger, what the manik really means is that since it's asur, it's not that you didn't say a bracha and you were a good boy. It's not that it's a nice thing to do. It's an isur to eat without saying the bracha. You can't say the achilas matzah before you said hamoitzi lechem min haaretz. That will permit you to say al achilas matzah, which is tremendous chiddush. It's not the only one who says a big chiddush like this. Very similar. Biur halacha. Biur halacha in Samech Beis writes regarding drinking in the bathhouse. You want to drink in the bathhouse, but you can't say a bracha there. Technical problem. People are naked there. You can't say a bracha. Says the Biur halacha, even if you are anus and you can't say bracha, you cannot eat or drink over there. Because the exemption of an oines is only for fulfilling a mitzvah. You can fulfill a mitzvah, okay, fine. But not saying a bracha is an isur. It's not a lack of fulfilling a positive mitzvah. And by the way, Rav Shlomo Kluger says this is even an derabbanot, and all the brachos are derabbanot. So since Chazal say it's stealing and it's an isur, asur lehenos me'olam hazeh, you're not allowed to benefit from this world without a bracha, says the Biur halacha, you cannot drink. I'm not talking about it's a pikuach nefesh, you have to drink, of course you have to drink. But if it's not, you have to wait until you go out of that situation of oinus, and only then will you be able to say the bracha, you'll be able to drink or eat. Oinen is not allowed to. He has a new status. He is not allowed to, even if he wants to. He's not allowed to. There are some, but it's still a positive thing that he's doing. He's saying a bracha. There are some tzaddikim and chassidim b'anshei ma'aseh, the poskim bring, that when he's an oinen, he will try to refrain from eating or drinking, again, not pikuach nefesh shayla, in order not to take something on this world without taking a bracha. But that's midas chassidus. Midas al-pi din, he is exempt, and not only is he exempt, he's not allowed to say, and if you hear the oinen say bracha, you can't say amen. And we brought a big chiddush, the Mincha Shlomo, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, that says there is a bracha that he can't say. And that is the bracha of hamapil when he goes to sleep. Because the whole exemption for saying brachos is because you're saying, I'm involved in another mitzvah. Oisig b'mitzvah, patur min mitzvah. It's not covered to the person that he's dealing with that you're still stopping and doing other things. But since when he's going to sleep, he's announcing and declaring to the world, I stopped. I'm no longer involved in that mitzvah. Oh, so why don't you say hamapil? So Mimele, if Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says, he has to say, Amapil, before he goes to sleep.
You have to say it over when you wake up with the alarms. You get up, you have to say it over again. Right?
Say what? Amapil you say only once. Amapil you say only once.
You only say it once even though there are 3
Only even if you get up 5 times to learn. Forget about sirens. There's not going to be any more sirens in Hashem. You get up 5 times to learn. There's a shayla that the Rashba is bothering you and you can't understand the Rashba, so you wake up. This time it happens to you all the time. You don't say Amapil again. Amapil you say only once and end it.
So only if you get up to go to the bathroom and you come back and say Matzah again? Or?
No. You come back from the bathroom after, if you wash your hands, like your Mishnah Berurah wants a Yerei Shamayim to do, you're able to say Asher Yatza. But no Hamapil again after you already said it earlier.
Well, again, Chilas Matzah, if you got confused or just said a Chilas Matzah, said Chamansi, well, again, would that not Motzi you because you have said a bracha.
The bracha is for the mitzvah. You're involved in a mitzvah, but you never said the bracha to allow you to eat this thing.
Chilas Matzah is not eating.
After it's mine, after I'm cleaning it and I got permission that it's mine, so now I can do a mitzvah with it. But before you do that, and that it can happen, people are involved with saying L'Shem Yichud, and people get excited and all those things around, and they say Achilas Matzah, but they neglected, they skipped over Hamoitzi. According to Shlomo Kluger, it's a big problem. Yad Sofer doesn't agree. But according to Shlomo Kluger, you have a big problem and you'll have to go again with a new piece of matzah and say Hamoitzi and eat it. Where exactly did our forefathers eat the matzah? Where? Our forefathers in the desert. When they left Mitzrayim, where did they eat the matzah exactly?
In the house, under the doors, under the lamp.
That's where they smeared the blood. Where was the matzah baked? Before they left Mitzrayim or after?
Before.
When they're leaving. So they're not in the country anymore, right? Your formulation of the Agada is different than mine? What do we say in the Agada? Di achlu avasana be'ara de Mitzrayim. This is the matzah our forefathers ate be'ara de Mitzrayim. No, it's not. They only started baking it when they left. Vayofu es abatzek, Shmois, Yud Beis Lametes, is after they leave. Shal of the Abu Dham, one of the Rishonim. And the Abu Dham says, he brings in the name of the Yehosef HaEzovi B'Shem Ben Ezra. There was a prisoner in India, and they never gave him chametz. They only gave him matzah. Matzah is hard. It takes longer to digest, and therefore they have to spend less money on you. So he says, just like they did to that prisoner in India, so too did the Egyptians did to our forefathers, and they always used to give them matzah. This specific matzah, you're right, it was baked when we left Mitzrayim, we ate it in the desert, but this is a general thing. This is the bread that our forefathers used to eat all the time in Mitzrayim because that's what the Egyptians gave them because they didn't want to spend a lot of money on them. Because it takes a long time to digest. Maybe they won't have to spend money on your nice baked good, challah and bagel, and they ate the whole time. For hundreds of years, they ate matzah in Mitzrayim. Why were we exiled to Mitzrayim? What went wrong? What's that? I can't hear you. At the Bris Ben Abesarim, it was promised to Avraham Avinu. Your seed will go to a foreign land. But why? What did we do wrong or someone did something wrong? Say again? Because Avraham Avinu said, what would I know? We can find in Chazal many different reasons. But Chanukah Satoya, mind-boggling Chiddush, he brings it from Sefer Galia Razia. Galia Razia, one of the Rishonim, a Kadmon, with all kinds of remarkable Chiddushim. And he says, because Yaakov Avinu brought a Targum Aramaic translation to the Torah. When did Yaakov Avinu do this? Yaakov called the fence between them Galed, and Lavan called it Yegal Sahadusa. So Yaakov Avinu, as if forced, brought foreign language into the Torah. So he has to go, him and his seed have to go to a foreign land. What did it? He's medayagit from what we say in the Agada, from what the Torah itself says. The pasuk says, "V'ine ochas Yishmaelim ba migilad." The pasuk continues, "Lehoirid Mitzrayim." What Gilad? Galed. From that Galed, which you forced Lavan as if to say Yegal Sadut to bring Aramaic into the Torah. Lehoirid Mitzrayim. Therefore, we had to go down to Mitzrayim. It doesn't end. Arami oived avi vayered Mitzrayim. Because Avi, my father, brought Aramaic into the Torah, Vayered Mitzrayim, he has to go to Mitzrayim. And that's what we say in the Haggadah itself. Vayered Mitzrayim, melamed sheyahaya anus al pi hadibur. Which dibur? Because of the words. Because of the words that he brought into the Torah, Yegar Sadut of the Aramaic, Anus, he was forced to go down to Mitzrayim. You brought a different language into the Torah, you go to a foreign land. Last thing is Kimcha de Pesach. In Shulchan Aruch HaChaim, Kuf Chaf Tes, Seif Aleph, the Rema brings the minhag of Kimcha de Pesach. In every Kehillah, there's always Kimcha de Pesach. But why is that? That before Pesach, we're very makpid to give the Aniyim, without it doesn't even start. But we don't see it in other Yamim Tovim like you see before Pesach. What's so special at Pesach that we all are makpid to make sure all the Aniyim will have their needs? There's a Tana de Eliyahu. In Tana de Eliyahu, in Perek Chaf Dalet, according to one version, says, unbelievable thing. Eliyahu Hanavi reveals to us, Yoitzei Mitzrayim, those people who were ready to go out of Mitzrayim, had one mitzvah in their hands, and it gave HaKadosh Baruch Hu so much pleasure, more so than 100 mitzvahs. And what was that mitzvah? Sheyasu kulam aguda achas, they were united. Vekasu bris, and they made a covenant with each other. Ligmol chesed ze im ze. That was the mitzvah that gave HaKadosh Baruch Hu so much pleasure and nachas, and because of that they were redeemed. Mimele. Since they were redeemed for chesed, and since Benisan Nigalu Uvenisan Asidin Liger, and since we want to be redeemed already, so we see them doing chesed, we do the same, and Kimcha de Pesach is all about chesed, and for that merit, in Mitzvah Hashem, we will be redeemed as well. In Mitzvah Hashem, next week there is no shir. In 2 weeks from now, Aleph Dechol Moed Pesach, Friday, there will be a special shir for Pesach. I don't know what time, to be announced. Then we will have a break, or the break continues, for 3 weeks until Pashas Achrei Mois Kedoshim, that's Zayin Iyar Friday. So next year is a Mitzvah Hashem in 2 weeks on Friday, and thereafter Pashas Achrei Mois Kedoshim, Good Shabbos, and Chag Kosher v'Sameach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.